Hey everybody, I haven't been on for a while, and unfortunately, I'm going to explain that to you today. And hopefully I can give you a little bit of advice so maybe this stuff doesn't happen to any of you, any of my friends, or really anyone out there. A week ago, CPS, that's Child Protective Services, through the Department of Human Services, came to my son's house unannounced, without a warrant, without a court order, stating they had probable cause to immediately remove his children. Prior to this, there had been several complaints made against my son and his wife. Complaints that they claim show a pattern of drug abuse, or, they're all unsubstantiated, not validated complaints. Of course, CPS will tell you they're anonymous complaints, but by law, they are not really allowed to act on an anonymous complaint, although they do. These things I'm going to tell you that they're not allowed to do by law, they do. The very first thing I want to tell anyone that's facing this situation, do not, and I cannot be more serious, do not allow CPS in your home. If they knock on the door and they got cops standing there, they aren't there to enforce the action of CPS. I'm telling you that. They are there for the protection of the worker, because a bunch of CPS workers were getting shot, and they did some kind of a law that they can bring a cop with them. That cop is not there for you. That cop is there for CPS, for their protection. They've used this law to intimidate people. When they knock on your door with the cop, if it's not the cop knocking, the cop don't need to be there. If the cop doesn't have that warrant in his hand, they don't need to be there. That's the other thing. When CPS comes to your door and they say, hello, we'd like to talk to you today, is that okay? No, it's not okay. It's not. You can say, no, and they'll say, well, I just need to see your child. It's just a well check, I just need to see your child. They don't even need to see your child, okay? Tell them to go get a warrant to see your child. If they try to force themselves in your house, at any point that you feel that you have to open that door, just to prove your innocence, they will threaten you. They will threaten you with a warrant. They think that they have the right to lie. And the reason I'm saying that they really think this is because they teach you that when you start to work for CPS. They teach you that any admission at all is an admission to guilt. Okay? They very regularly break your Fourth Amendment right and several other rights. I believe there's, your First, your Fourth, your Sixth, your Seventh, your 13th, all these rights on a daily basis, okay? You have the right to privacy. You have the right to raise your children the way that you want to, without interference. You have the right to religious freedom. You have the right to educate your children in the way that you wish. You have the right to your religion. You have the right to seek medical treatment the way that you see fit. You have the right to defend yourself against illegal search and seizure. And when they speak to your children without your consent, that is illegal search and seizure. They will do it. They'll do it anyways. They're going to go to the school because they think that in a public forum they have the right to abuse your rights, because our birth certificates say State of Michigan. It's a title. It is. That makes CPS feel that in a civil court they are the owners of your children, but they feel that the state is the owner of your children. So in a public forum that receives state money, they think that they have the right to break your amendment rights. And they will do it. Okay? They'll go in and they'll talk to your kid at the school. The school doesn't know. They will let your kid come in there because, of course, you know, everybody thinks CPS is trying to help everyone. Trying to get those kids out of those abusive homes. 80% of the cases where children are removed, there's no physical or sexual abuse going on. It's called neglect. They consider emotional neglect to a child smoking pot, testing positive for THC. Oh, and it doesn't matter whether it's legal, whether you have a card or not. It doesn't matter because it is based on the discretion of these people. If they feel that, it's just like somebody who's drinking. It's not illegal to drink, but if you're a, shit-faced drunk all the time and your kids aren't getting fed and, those kind of things, yeah. They consider it neglect, emotional neglect. And it's legal to drink. Okay? So it doesn't matter if you smoke pot. And it's legal. Because they decide that you are emotionally abusing your children. Okay. They can come into the school and talk to your kids. They ask very leading questions that they are trained to ask. Hi, Johnny. My name's so-and-so, and I'm here to talk to you today, and I wanted to ask you some questions from CPS. Is that okay with you? They feel that a kid in kindergarten has the right, gives them the right, they have the right to consent to be interviewed. The kid says, yeah, you can ask me. They can continue to ask these kids questions. Teach your kids. Do not talk to strangers. It does not freaking matter if they say they're from the school, if they say they're from CPS, if they ask you, can I talk to you for a few minutes? No. Tell them no. Tell them do not ever talk to anyone at school but your teacher or your principal. You show them the people they're allowed to talk to at the school. Don't let them. Tell your children, no, don't talk to strangers at school. They use tactics like they'll hold the kids up from an activity that they want to do, like play recess or, something like that. So they're like, well, if you can just hurry this up, you can get out there and play with your friends. Now, how many times does your dad touch your penis? I mean, just like totally fucked up questions. You can look this shit up yourself, too. You can look up court cases. You can pull up, interviews and stuff. Most of this stuff is not on record. But there's whistleblowers out there that can describe the situation. All right. So after they go to the school, they get a yes on something. This is an example that I heard. That same thing, how many times does your dad touch his penis? Do you touch your dad's penis? Does he touch your penis? Type of thing. Kid says, no. Says, well, does your dad give you a bath? Yeah. Does he wash you? Yeah. Okay, he touches his penis. That's how it goes. I could sit here and try to go on like, oh, this is a big conspiracy, because it is. These people are kidnapping children without proof. In civil court, you only have to have probable cause. That's why they can do it. They think they can do it. Because they don't have to prove. They only have to show that there might be a possibility that something could happen to this kid. They came and got my kid, my son, 7 children, him and his wife. And their allegations were that they showed a history of drug abuse because they've been on drug treatment in the past. That their house was deplorable, which is ridiculous. They had dishes in their sink and very normal. It doesn't matter. That was her opinion. She said it was deplorable. That's how it goes. My kids went in to try to fight to get their children back against an exparte order that wasn't even in place yet. And they were already denied any contact with their children. Their 2 oldest kids sat at the school for 2 hours and then were shuttle bused to a foster care home. They had no idea why. They thought their parents were killed in a car accident. They didn't even explain anything to them. On their first visit with their parents, that's when that had to come out. They don't care about the kids. And they haven't really asked them anything. They didn't ask the kids if the parents are treating them bad. Because they know that they're not. And of course, now the kids have all been apart from each other. Split up in separate foster care homes, and they're all having a very hard time because they love their siblings and they've never been torn apart before. So we've got a 3-year-old that's crying nonstop and begging for his parents and his siblings, and a 2-year-old that's doing the same thing. And we really don't know about our 10-year-old and our 8-year-old because we're not allowed contact really with them, except for the bio dad, my son. These people have been married, raising 7 children, and they are separating them by bio and not bio. How is that family unification? The fact is, we're poor. My son and his wife have 7 beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed kids. We're poor. That's it. We're poor. Okay? And they think we don't know our rights. And you know what? We didn't. Because if we did, they never would have stepped foot in our home. Now, I'm sorry. Now we're forced, with no direction, to find some kind of a lawyer to prove these people, to prove that my son and his daughter, or his wife, are fit, when there was no cause to take these children in the first place. Because to take a child, by law now, to take a child from a home without a warrant or an ex parte order, you have to prove now, or actually, I'm wrong, probable cause that is very highly evident that there is imminent danger, probable imminent danger will happen to these children within a 2-hour span now. That's a P1 removal order. Within a 2-hour, that would cause severe physical trauma or death. This CPS bitch, because I don't know if I mentioned before, my son and his wife have 7 children, okay? They have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, a set of 6-month-old twins, 2 8-year-olds, and a 10-year-old. The 2 and 3-year-old were trying to climb in the pack and play while the baby was in there, so therefore that posed an imminent danger. Of course, this was happening when, she was demanding a drug test, demanding to count pills and prescriptions that, I'm going to tell you right now, this is another thing. You never have to submit to a drug test through CPS. They have to get a warrant. It has to be done by a medical professional. It has to be done in a sterile environment. These people that are investigators and are coming to your house are nothing more than 4-year college graduates that could be graduated in anything. Music, physical education, which I believe is numbnuts bitch that took my grandkids. You go through a couple months, now probably a couple weeks, since they're just of training. And you can become a CPS investigator. It takes a real special person, I would say, wouldn't you? Somebody that can go in there and decide, because there's so much more righteous than you, that your kids would be better off split up in different counties even, and you got to prove that you're better than what they think you are to get them back. And if you're poor, I'm telling you right now, you can't get a good lawyer. You can go in there and get a court-appointed lawyer, but they only get one payment. It's like $200 or something like that, and they're done with your case. They rotate. They get a chance. They don't want to fuck around. The lawyers that my son and his wife got wanted to waive his right. They wanted him to waive a right to a hearing because they said that he could incriminate himself in there by something he said. And yeah, because he wasn't even allowed to present any evidence. He wasn't. Thank God. Thank God he didn't waive that hearing. Because if he would have been giving up his right to due process. And he would have been at the mercy of this court, of that court, to decide whatever they wanted to do. It takes 15 months of your kids being in foster care before they can be put up for adoption. Before they even went to court. This has only been for a week. They've been gone a week, okay? They already told Zach and Carrie they might as well figure 9 months before they get their kids back. This makes me sick to say it, but a kid that is placed in foster care home is 8 times more likely to be physically and sexually abused than being pulled from an abusive, not just physically and sexually abused, but can die. 8 times more likely to be killed, molested, physically abused in foster care than being taken from an abusive home. A seriously proven abusive home. Not a fake abusive home. I'm talking about. You know why? Because these people don't love your kids. They get a number when they get into foster care. If they run away and they are missing, or, God forbid something happens to them, they're a commodity now. And they're just a statistic, and they're written off, and there's no investigation done. Sometimes if they die in foster care, that foster care home never gets investigated. It's just a statistic. And y'all can think I'm bullshitting about this stuff, but man, look it up. And I'm sitting here terrified as hell. I've called the ACLU. I've called lawyers. I've called and the worst part of it all is they're threatening my other grandchildren, too. This is an act of revenge against my family by this particular worker that yanked these kids, and I have history. She came to my house in 2014, and when my daughter was going to stay with me after complaints had been made about her, and told me I had to get rid of my pets, demanded that she looked at my medication and several other things. And I said, listen, you ain't got the right. I'm protected by HIPAA. You need to get the fuck out of my house. She said, well, I'm just gonna have to. First she tried it off with, why don't you just let us take the kids for the weekend? You can get your house in order and get rid of your animals. I said, I'm not getting rid of my animals. I had a cat and a dog. She said, well, I can smell the litter box. My cat was in quarantine in a room. She happened to just take a shit. My house was not dirty. My house was plenty. I have been approved by social services 4 fucking times. I've had foster children. I've had guardianship of children. I've worked for I've worked for Child and Family Services. I've been bonded by the state. I've worked for community mental health. I've worked for state agencies. Not that makes a fucking bit of difference, obviously, because I'm ashamed of that. But that's why I don't work for them fucking assholes anymore. This shit's wrong. And you know what? I can see. I've looked up all kinds of stuff. And I've looked up all the laws. And they all say, oh yeah, your rights were violated. Over and over and over again. And you're right. They shouldn't have them. And you're right. They shouldn't have never done it like that. And you're right. But you know what? They're fucking gone. They're gone. They're gone already. Nobody says what you gotta do now. By law? By law. My son should be able to go to the prosecutor and press charges for kidnapping on these people. By law, criminal court should override civil court every day. But they're separate. My son and his wife are not being charged with any crimes, and they did that on purpose. So they don't have a burden of proof to show that my son and his wife were neglecting their children. What it amounted to is a vendetta. I had that bitch thrown off my case for that statement, I need your pills. I think your daughter's on drugs. Why does she need my pills? My daughter was moving in with me with her kid. I had room. I told her to get out of my house. And then I promptly called her supervisor and the director of Department of Social Services and had her ass removed, with proof that she was friends with the people that made the complaint against her. She should have left the case as soon as she knew that my son was related to the person she was removed from. But she didn't do that. Before a social service worker can remove your children, they're supposed to exhaust every familiar person that they can possibly do. They're supposed to call every single family member so that they can find a adequate place, a place where they're not going to traumatize the children if they do have to investigate. Not one person was called, but a friend, a friend of Carrie's mother. Wait, wrong. Carrie's friend's mother works with a lady that a week and a half before the kids were taken said, oh, great, I'm getting twin girls this week. And guess who's got the twin girls? Being in civil court, Zach wasn't allowed, my son wasn't allowed to send all the, in 5 days. Let me tell you what these kids did in 5 days. They got letters from social workers, from nurses, from churches, from probably 30 character references. We had people show up at court. We had family members stepping up to take these kids. They had shot records, WIC records, letters from teachers, letters from social workers. I'm telling you, there was a stack this high of proof that they are good parents. And the court would not listen to it. They would not let him present that. You know why? Because they ain't taking his rights. They just took his kids. They ain't charging him. They just took his kids. Because if he proved it, if they allowed him to submit that evidence, he would have had his kids back. They illegally abducted my son's kids. You cannot enter into a person's house without a warrant. If a person asks you to leave their property and you don't have a warrant, you're supposed to get off of it. This didn't happen. Then she got an exparte after removing the children, before checking with any family, which is completely against state protocol. And then had the hearing in front of the same judge that gave the ex parte. Like she's gonna say, I made a mistake a week ago. I don't know if anybody can help us with this. I'm willing to sell every damn thing I got at this point because I was in foster care. I can't bear to think of my grandkids being there. I was going to try to get out of here and just... The biggest thing is don't let your kids talk to them. Don't open your fucking door for these people. Don't do it. Don't do it. By law, they cannot remove your children on an anonymous complaint. But they bank on people not knowing this. They bank on bringing a cop with them so that you think that the cop is enforcing what they're doing, and they're not. Unless a cop hands you a paper that says something, don't accept it. Don't let these people in your house, if they knock on your door, they say, well, we're going to get a warrant. Say, do it, because they need proof to get a warrant, and they can't do it on hearsay, and they can't do it on an anonymous complaint. So 9 times out of 10, if you stand up to them, and they might try to come back 2 or 3 more times without a warrant, doesn't matter. Tell them to get off your property. And if they happen to have a police officer, look at that police officer and say, I'm asking them to leave this property. They need to leave my property. And the cop will turn to them and say, you need to leave their property, because that is the law. I haven't been on doing my normal videos because of this. This is the most important thing that I could ever tell anyone out there, though. Don't allow people in your house. You don't have to. You do not have to comply to CPS. You do not have to. They have to get a warrant. And if they get a warrant, it has to be criminal. And they have to have proof to do that. And it can't be on an anonymous complaint. You can never get a warrant on an anonymous complaint. So turn them away. It doesn't matter if you've had a case open forever, you can turn them away. They have to get it. They still have to get a warrant. They might get one so that you show cause why you haven't complied with the previous court order or whatever, but that is a different court. It's supposed to be a different court. They have to press charges on you. It has to become a criminal matter. If they keep it in civil court, you're at their mercy. If you waive your hearing to comply with CPS, you're giving up your due process. Thank God my son didn't waive that hearing. They're talking about him incriminating himself. He can't incriminate himself. It's crim, figure it out. Criminal. He hasn't committed anything criminal. They told him not to stand up there because he would incriminate himself. He wants to be incriminated. He wants them to press criminal charges because it will never, ever be proven. In fact, they would have never got a warrant for the bullshit that they're saying. The baby could fall on another baby. There's so many toys that a toy could be on the floor and maybe a baby could possibly pick the piece up and choke on it. This is fucking utter bullshit. We have other social workers showing that, actually, I'm not even going to say that because this is there's something on the case, but my thing to you, I'm telling you right now, don't ever let CPS in your house. Don't answer questions, and tell your little kids if they go to school, do not talk to any strangers, anyone at all, about your mom and dad, about anyone. These people are not trying to help your kid or you at all. They are not cops. They don't have any bigger education than I do and probably than you do. Okay? You don't even have to have 4 years to be a CPS investigator. You can have 2 and training. These people are not medically authorized to give you a drug test. That has to be performed in a sterile environment by a trained medical professional for it to be right. Text messages are not admissible in court unless it's in civil court and it's somehow showing a probable cause. They somehow think that that was okay. Some made up text messages, I don't know. In criminal court it wouldn't fly. That's the difference. If they do try to come and get your kids, if they do have a warrant, I'm not exactly sure how to go about that, but I know that it would be coming out of a criminal court and not a civil court. And the police would present you with it, not CPS. If you've ever been in a squabble with an ex or something like that, or anything with custody, and one comes to the other and says, I want my kid right now, the only thing that cop is doing is standing there and making sure that that child is okay. If that child is safe, what do they say? It's a civil matter. They can't enforce, they can't say, well, I don't want my husband to have my daughter. I want her to come home with me. If she's safe there with her husband, what do they say? With her dad? They say it's a civil matter. They can't do anything. And it's the same damn thing with CPS. It's a civil court, a civil matter. To get a warrant against you, it has to be a criminal matter. Don't let them into your house. Don't end up like us right now. Don't get me, I'm fighting this with every fucking bone in my body. And so is my son and his wife. And we will get our kids back. I don't give a shit what I gotta do. I don't gotta give a shit if I gotta go sit in front of that bitch's car with my little signs every night. I just got done saying I'm done fighting. I don't want to I'm not going to I have to. This is my family. It could be your family. Don't let these assholes do this shit to you. You do not have to let them in. You do not have to submit to a drug test. They need a warrant, and let it come through a criminal court. Let it come through a circuit court, a district court. Warrants aren't issued in civil court. Exparte orders can be. But to really take your children, they need something to warrant. That's what a warrant is. This. Alright, man. I'm gonna stop this rant, and I will be back, and I will update, because I'm putting more and more information out there. I don't want this to happen to anyone else. I'm devastated that it happened to us. Don't let it happen to you.